Hi again. This time I've decided to keep myself warm by going on our recumbent bike. We've a couple of recumbent bikes here that we've got as part of a wonderful project to get age-appropriate exercise equipment into a shed in Donegal. But a number of people have said to me, because of the videos that I've been making, which have been exposing essentially the corruption of thought processes within the present arrangement of the Irish Men's Shed Association. And, you know, there's a saying when I worked in the railway, are you contributing to solution or adding to the problem? So people say to me, look, Liam, a lot of stuff going on here with dementia, can we not just keep it quiet and do our own thing, etc.? So I have this idea, the metaphor I have is, if you're in a train going at 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction, before you can change direction, you have to put the brakes on and stop and maybe ask yourself where you're going. So that's really what I've been doing. I've been challenging fundamentally wrong model for how a men's association should be run. So the Men's Shed Association should be a group of peer sheds who are all equal and who collaborate, communicate, cooperate with each other in order to help each other, while recognizing both the uniqueness of each shed, and to bring together the best of that experience through an elected process so that they can be represented and bring their views to the public space or to funders, etc. So what I want to talk about in the next couple of minutes, if you'll come and do a bit of exercise with me, good test for my pulmonary function here. Check my pulse rate here. So I'm at 82. Anyway, so here's my sense of, and I've done a lot of research around what other sort of grassroots, if you call them, organizations should be like. And I think one thing we can learn from is the Irish Farmers Association model, where every, what we call an ordinary member of the Farmers Association, they get to elect everybody upline who represents them. So, and a lot of stuff that I'm going to talk about here is not necessarily new. Other people have talked of this before. And I do believe that in talking in a long conversation with John Evoy, the founder of the Sheds, and with others over the last period of time, that always was the intention. And what has happened has basically been a falling away from that, and that we now have a group of private individuals who effectively own the company called the Irish Men's Shed Association. And we're not elected by any of you sheds, because you've no rights here. Anyway, my suggestion would be that if we take an organisation based on a county by county basis, I mean, the first primary thing is that all sheds, men's sheds, who choose should be members of the Irish Men's Shed Association. And membership fundamentally entails the right to vote on who represents you. So if we just take things on a county by county basis, and again, I said, other people have expressed this before, so I'm not trying to steal their ideas or otherwise, but just to restate them. But if we take, for example, in Donegal, let's say there were going to be 20 sheds. My suggestion is that those sheds should essentially have a chairman, a treasurer, and a secretary in each shed. And that those three people should then come together on a county-wide basis, which would create 20 sheds, 60 people. So you'd have 20 chairs, 20 treasurers, 20 secretaries. And that they should meet on a regular basis, possibly once a month, and discuss things that interest them. Share information, share best practice, share concerns, maybe organise interactions between them. Taking it from there forward, that the next level would be on a provincial basis, that there would be a chosen representation for the province from within those individuals in the different sheds in each county. So you'd be chosen to go from your county. No, so for example, in every county, I think you should have, out of those 20 people, those 20 sheds, there would be an elected chairman and an assisted chairman. I don't think it requires anything else, right? Maybe a secretary who would just pull things together. and that representation then would be chosen to go forward to be a provincial representative. And then on a national executive, you would have, say, 2 representatives from each province. That gives you 8 who would serve on the board. Now, in recognition of the fact that people from outside the sheds may bring different perspectives, possibly professional talents, etc., I suggested you would leave then perhaps 4 places on the board. So you'd have a board made of 12 people, 8 of them who would be shed members, and that the chairman would always be a shed member. In other words, that the control and the future and the representation of the Men's Shed Association should essentially come from the ground itself, from men's sheds. Okay? Now, the other thing that's there's another thing that strikes me, is that looking over the last 10 years is a real dearth of leadership experience, administrative talents and experience around sheds all over the country. And it's a huge problem when it comes to organising documentation, administration, communicating with your landlord, leases, organising the money, organising grants, and speaking publicly, etc. And I have sought since back in 2021-22, when I ran some Zoom events with people across England and different parts of the world, to try and have that discussion about developing leadership skills amongst men's sheds. Now, unfortunately, the Irish Men's Shed Chief Executive, Ed Egan, came along to one meeting but had really nothing to offer. Well, at that stage, so I had a vision that in Donegal, that you might have a situation where the 20 chairs, the 20 secretaries and the 20 treasurers would each form subgroups, and that a group of mentors might come together to work with these people over a period of a year or 2 to develop their leadership and administrative skills. So that at the end of this process, you would have a cohort of individuals, of leaders among sheds, who themselves would have developed a camaraderie and collaboration among themselves and could carry their sheds forward and also create the sustainable replacement of themselves to ensure in succession management going forward. I also had reached out to a number of contacts I would have had who are very successful in industry and education, etc., who would have been delighted to act as a placenta support group or mentors to develop in this group. The other massive change that has happened over, and particularly just before, since COVID, is the means of communication. I mean, right now, WhatsApp, moved on from what Skype used to be. So almost everybody is familiar with using WhatsApp. Beyond Facebook and everything else, you have WhatsApp. And you have the proven reality of being able to meet on Zoom. So to be able to communicate with each other doesn't necessarily mean physically going, Donegal's a big county, for example, all over the county, long travels, and particularly in the winter to get to a place. So these meetings and collaborations can happen, and it'll become much easier to do that as technology advances. So to be able to have group conversations in WhatsApp, to be able to have meetings on Zoom. So in fact, the model I would suggest is, if you look back at the British Open University, which for decades now has been doing this remote learning, where people get together at times to create that physical interaction between each other, but also then interact remotely. The other thing is that in terms of how the Men's Shed Association should be organised nationally, obviously to do certain functions you need funds and you need an executive. So someone who's required to, if we need to employ someone to do it, those people are employed as servants of the Men's Shed Association. They work in service of the Men's Shed Association. They're not there, they're there to execute the wishes of the members of sheds, nobody else. But it seems to me that, for starters, I don't believe it's necessary for the Irish Men's Sheds at all to own a building or to even rent a building. The reality is that most of those people at the moment themselves work remotely and are not actually turning up in the same office all the time. And what I've discovered is there was tens of thousands of euro every year being spent on a rent of a room at the Irish Farm Centre, even after this place was not even being used. So that needs to move on from that. But the reality is that, I mean, even if we look at the grants applications, they're all being performed through online stuff. There's almost no need for paperwork. And over the next number of years, this will not be necessary. So the focus on, let's say, the administrative structure within the Irish Men's Shed should be distributive. That's the first thing. It should be carried on using all the modern technologies of remote communication, and therefore should be minimalist in terms of cost. So that the resources that become available to sheds should be about providing equipment, resources for the sheds themselves at the coalface, because it's the men's sheds that create the magic of the men. It's not done by any administrative group who sit in the centre. In fact, the board members at the Irish Men's Shed company at the moment are people who are 5 people, 3 men and 2 women, only one of whose face is actually on their website. They're not even members of sheds. And then they talk as if they represent sheds when none of them were elected, nor are any of your views. You don't get a chance to vote on any policies or anything. My God, this is hard exercise, you know that. But look at, this is what my proposals are. Or the other thing, I think that when elected positions are there, they should be there for defined terms. That could be negotiated. But an example would be that if there was in your county, you had the chair of your county group. You could have a chair and an assistant chair, and there could be a 2-year cycle, which would be interleaved by a year, so that you would never have a situation that both the chair and the assistant chairman would be stepping down at the same time. There would always be a follow-through and a crossover. But there are many other models out there that can be operated. The one sine qua non that you cannot do without is that the sheds themselves have to vote on who represents them. The sheds themselves determine what their policies will be, determine what their culture will be, and that it cannot be interposed or by other interlopers who come in and hijack that magic work done by sheds. So look at, if this is resonant with you at all, and I'm a little warmer than when I came in here this morning, this building nearly 3 degrees, please subscribe below. Please share this information, because it's been actively suppressed. This discussion has been actively suppressed by a cabal of individuals who have essentially taken control of the Irish Men's Shed Association. So over and out from Liam O'Gogan here, who's knackered in our shed Sciabunnavar in West Donegal. Thanks, folks. Whew. Okay, after trying to recover from that hard exercise, just shows you a little bit of exercise every day at 70 years of age can't do you any harm. So maybe while you're mulling over some of those thoughts about the construct of an inclusive and really democratic model of organising men's sheds into an association, I think this song, which again we sing in our lovely singing group here, Singing Circle, on a Monday night in the men's sheds in Gweedore. Every here on a Monday night, please join in. Participation over performance. Beautiful song. I think it captures a lot of the magic of what men's sheds as a community group are about. And my memories of Tommy Makem singing this. So Tommy Makem of the Clancy Brothers. Inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. And inch by inch, row by row, someone sifts these seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rain come tumbling down. And pulling weeds and picking stones, man is made of dreams and bones. Feel the need and grow my own, 'cause the time is close at hand. And bring forth the rain, sun and rain, find my way into nature's chain, tune my body and my brain to the music from the land. And plant your rows straight and long, temper them with prayer and song. Mother Earth will make you strong if you give her love and care. And Gold Crow watching hungrily from his perch in yonder tree. And in my garden I'm as free as a feathered thief up there. So go down and join your shed. You'll be all the better for it. Inch by inch, row by row, gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a face of fertile ground. And inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warm them from below till the rain comes tumbling down. So don't forget to subscribe and share this information to as many people as you can, and let's make our Sheds Association, and particularly getting ready for 2030, let's really leave something of legacy value behind us. Thanks, folks.